Hard thuds against the wood, one after another, violent, desperate. Then her voice, that voice I'd learned to dread over 2 years of hell. "Open this door, you old deadweight. Open it right now, or I swear I'm kicking it in." It was Tiffany Sterling, my daughter-in-law, pounding on the door of my own home like she was a criminal trying to break in. But the irony was so bitter, it almost made me laugh. She was the one who should be outside, both her and my son. Because this house, this home I built with years of sacrifice, was never theirs. I was inside, sitting in the only armchair they still allowed me to use, listening as the new lock held firm against every blow. I had changed every single lock that morning, all of them, and I didn't ask permission. Why would I? It's my house. It always was. The screaming continued. "Miriam, I'm going to sue you. This is property seizure. I'm calling the police." Property seizure in my own house. The words were so absurd that I felt something inside me, something that had been broken for too long, finally break free. There was no more fear, no more of that knot in my stomach that greeted me every morning. There was only clarity, cold, crystal clear clarity. About 30 minutes later, I heard another car. I knew that engine. It was Jamal's, my son's, the man I gave everything to, the boy I raised as my own, even though he didn't share my blood. And when he stepped out of the vehicle, when I saw through the peephole that he was carrying a crowbar, I knew the moment had arrived. The moment all my planning, done in secret for months, was finally going to unfold. "Mom, open the door." His voice sounded controlled, but I knew that tone. It was the tone he used right before he'd explode, the one that preceded the insults, the veiled threats, the cold disdain that forced me to sleep in the utility room of my own home. "Open up now, or I'll smash this door down." I walked closer, but I didn't open it. I spoke only through the solid wood. "I'm not opening it, Jamal. This is my house, and you two don't live here anymore." The silence lasted 3 seconds, then came the explosion. "Your house? This house belongs to everyone. We've lived here for 2 years. You can't just kick us out like this." Tiffany joined the chorus. "You have to give us prior notice. This is illegal. I'm going to record you and post it online so everyone can see what kind of mother you are." Recordings. Funny she should mention that, because I had recordings too. Plenty of them. And not just from this moment. I told them to leave, to speak to an attorney if they wanted, that I had already spoken to mine. That stopped them cold. I saw the doubt in Jamal's eyes through the peephole. Tiffany, however, only intensified her fury. "You don't have the money for a lawyer. You can barely afford groceries, Miriam. Stop lying." But I wasn't lying. 3 months ago, I hired Elias Vance, one of the best family eviction lawyers in the city. I paid him a $2,500 retainer upfront, money they thought I didn't have, money I had secretly saved for years in an account I opened when my husband passed, an account Jamal never knew about, a lifeline that was my salvation. When I decided enough was enough, there was an exact moment, a breaking point. It was 3 months ago, a Tuesday afternoon. I was cleaning the kitchen after preparing dinner for them, roasted chicken with sweet potatoes, Jamal's favorite dish since he was a kid. Tiffany came in and dropped her dirty plate on the table. She didn't even take it to the sink. She just left it there with food stuck to it and glared at me. "Tomorrow, I want you to wash the drapes in the master bedroom. And while you're at it, since you don't do anything all day, you might as well iron all our clothes for the week." You don't do anything all day. Me, who woke up at 5 in the morning to have breakfast ready. Me who cleaned every corner of a house that no longer felt like mine. Me who slept in a 6-by-7-foot utility room while they occupied the master suite with the private bath and walk-in closet, the bedroom that had been mine for 30 years. "Tiffany," I said that afternoon, trying to stay calm, "I have a doctor's appointment tomorrow. I can wash the drapes the day after." She spun around, her gaze pure ice. "A doctor's appointment? And who's supposed to take you? We don't have time to chauffeur you around. If you want to go, take the city bus." The bus. I was 65 years old, had bad knees, and the clinic was a 40-minute drive away. But it didn't matter. Nothing I needed ever mattered. Jamal walked in. I explained the situation, hoping, perhaps with a naivete that now embarrasses me, that he would intervene, that he would remember all the times I drove him to the doctor when he was small, all the sleepless nights when he had a fever, all the sacrifices. But he just sighed. "Mom, Tiffany's right. We can't keep waiting on you hand and foot. You're a grown woman. You need to learn to do things on your own." Learn to do things on my own. As if I hadn't spent the last 40 years doing everything alone. As if I hadn't raised a child by myself after his biological father abandoned us. As if I hadn't worked 2 jobs to provide him with an education, clothes, food, and a future. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed staring at the cracked ceiling of the utility room, listening to their laughter from the living room. They were watching a movie, eating popcorn, living their lives while I existed on the margins. And something in me either broke or perhaps was finally fixed. Because for the first time in 2 years, I saw everything with absolute clarity. This wasn't life. This was survival. And I hadn't survived so much in my life just to end up being a ghost in my own home. The next day, I went to see Elias Vance. I told him everything. I showed him the deed to the house, a deed that was solely in my name. Jamal was never on the papers. I bought the house in 1992 with inheritance money from my mother, years before I adopted Jamal, years before I even met Tiffany. Elias reviewed everything carefully. "Mrs. Dubois, you have every legal right to recover your property. They are occupants without a lease. I can initiate the unlawful detainer process immediately." I asked him how long it would take. "Between 2 and 4 months, depending on whether they put up a legal fight, but with the proof you have, the clear ownership documentation, and since they don't pay rent, the case is heavily in your favor." Proof. That's when I showed him my other secret. For 6 months, I had recorded everything. Every insult, every humiliation, every time Tiffany called me a freeloader or an old dead weight, every time Jamal ignored me when I asked for help. I had over 50 audio clips on my phone. Elias listened in silence. When he finished, I saw something in his eyes, a mix of indignation and sadness. "Ma'am, this is systemic emotional abuse. This not only gives you the right to recover your house, but it could also warrant a lawsuit for damages." I didn't want to sue. I just wanted peace. I just wanted to sleep in my own bedroom again, to walk through my house without feeling like every step was an intrusion, to be me again. So we planned everything. The lock change, the legal notice, the next steps. And today, I finally did it. The pounding on the door continued, but now it didn't scare me, because for the first time in 2 years, I was the one in control. Jamal started hitting the door with the crowbar. The sound of metal on wood was deafening. Each impact made the frame tremble, but the lock held. I had paid extra for reinforced security deadbolts. The locksmith had given me a strange look when I requested the strongest ones he had. "Having break-in problems in the neighborhood, ma'am?" I wish I could have told him the truth, that the robbery had already happened, that they had stolen my dignity, my peace, my home. But I just smiled and said yes. It was just a precaution. Outside, Tiffany was shouting to the neighbors, peeking out. "My crazy mother-in-law has lost it. She locked us out. We're her family, and she's throwing us out like dogs." Family. That word they loved to use when they needed something from me, but which disappeared whenever I needed something from them. I remembered last Christmas. Tiffany had invited her mother, Brenda, to spend the holidays with them. Well, with them because I wasn't invited to dinner. "Mom, the table only seats 6 people, and we're tight with Tiffany's family already. You understand, right? Besides, you prefer to eat early anyway." They sent me to eat dinner at 5 in the afternoon, alone in the kitchen while they toasted in the dining room with wine that I had paid for. Because that never changed. Even though they treated me like a maid, even though they humiliated me daily, I was still paying the house utilities. The electricity, the water, the gas, the internet, everything came out of my $1,800 monthly Social Security benefit, an amount Jamal considered enough for me to contribute since you live here for free. Free? In my own house. The lock finally gave a little. Jamal noticed and pounded harder. "The door is almost down." I had already called the police 10 minutes earlier. I explained the situation calmly. "My son is trying to enter my property by force. I have the documents that prove the house is mine. He has no legal right to be here. The operator said they were sending a patrol car immediately, but before they arrived, something changed outside. I heard the voice of another neighbor, Mr. Lewis, the gentleman who lived 3 houses down. "Young man, Jamal, what are you doing? You can't break down your mother's door." Tiffany spat back, "Mind your business, old man. This is a family matter." Mr. Lewis had been kind to me over the last 2 years. Sometimes he'd wave when I took out the trash early in the morning, before Tiffany woke up and assigned me more chores. Once he gave me oranges from his tree to make juice. "Mrs. Dubois, you look tired lately." Tired. Such a small word to describe the exhaustion of living in your own home like a ghost. Mr. Lewis insisted, "But you're damaging private property. I'm going to have to call the police." Jamal stopped hitting the door. "We already called them. She's the one who committed a crime. She locked us out without warning." Without warning. As if 2 years of abuse hadn't been warning enough. The sirens arrived 5 minutes later. 2 patrol cars, 4 officers. Tiffany rushed toward them with tears that appeared from nowhere. An impressive talent. She could cry in 3 seconds when it suited her. "Officers, thank God. My mother-in-law threw us out onto the street. We live here. This is our house." One of the officers, a man in his 40s with a tired expression, looked at Jamal with the crowbar in his hand. "Sir, put that down immediately." Jamal obeyed, but with contained rage. "Officer, my mother changed the locks without telling us. We live here. She can't just kick us out." The officer approached the door and knocked. "Ma'am, could you open the door, please?" I opened it slowly. The officers looked at me. A black woman of 65 years old, thin, with gray hair, pulled back and a simple bun. They probably saw what everyone else saw, a frail, perhaps confused old lady. But I wasn't confused. For the first time in years, I had absolute clarity. "Officers, this is my house. I can show you the documents." I went to retrieve the folder I had prepared, the property deed, utility receipts in my name, everything perfectly organized thanks to Elias. The officer reviewed every paper attentively. Then he looked at Jamal. "Do you pay rent?" Jamal stammered. "She's my mother. Tiffany interrupted. "It's her obligation to give us shelter. We're her family. She can't just throw us out." The officer sighed. He'd seen this before. It was obvious. "Ma'am, if the property is in your name and they neither pay rent nor have a lease, you have the right to ask them to leave. They can seek legal counsel, but they cannot force entry." Tiffany exploded. "This is unbelievable. Call your supervisor. This can't be legal." The other younger officer intervened. "Ma'am, it is completely legal. The property owner has the right to decide who lives in her house. If you wish to dispute this, you must go to court." Jamal looked at me fixedly, and in his eyes I saw something that broke my heart. Not regret, not sadness, just calculation. He was thinking of his next move, how to regain control. "Mom," he said in a softer voice, "I understand you're upset, but this is extreme. Where do you expect us to sleep tonight?" I would have given in before. That tone would have made me waver, but not anymore. "Jamal, you have family, you have friends, you have resources. You'll figure something out." Tiffany let out a bitter laugh, full of contempt. "Resources? We have nowhere to go, and this is your fault. I hope you can sleep knowing you left your son on the street." The officers exchanged glances. One of them spoke to me in a low voice. "Ma'am, are you sure about this? We understand it's your right, but he's your son." I looked him straight in the eye. "Officer, for 2 years, I slept in the utility room while they occupied my bedroom. I woke up at 5 every morning to make them breakfast. I cleaned, I cooked, I washed their clothes, and they never once said thank you. They called me a freeloader. They treated me worse than an employee, because at least an employee gets paid and gets a day off. The silence that followed was heavy. The officer nodded slowly. I understand. I'm sorry. Tiffany tried one last time. Miriam, at least let us get our clothes. You can't hold our things hostage. I had already planned for this. All your clothes are packed in suitcases. You can pick them up tomorrow morning with a police presence if you wish. At 10 a.m. Jamal stepped forward. Mom, please, let's talk like adults. I know we've had our differences, but we're family. We can fix this. Differences. He called 2 years of systemic abuse differences. The conversation ended a long time ago. Jamal, tomorrow at 10, with an officer present, you can retrieve your belongings. The officers escorted Tiffany and Jamal toward their car. She was still shouting, "You're going to regret this. I'm going to tell everyone. The whole world is going to know what kind of mother you are." Let her tell everyone. Let her scream it, because I was going to tell my version too. And I had the proof. 53 recordings, text messages, and witnesses like Mr. Lewis who had seen how they treated me. I closed the door when they left. The silence of the house enveloped me. A different silence. Not the tense silence of tiptoeing around not to bother them. Not the silence of hiding in my own house. It was the silence of peace. For the first time in 730 days, I was alone in my house, and it was glorious. I sat down on the living room sofa, the couch I hadn't dared to sit on for months because Tiffany said it was her space. I poured myself a cup of tea. I turned on the TV to the channel I wanted, not the one they chose. And then the tears came. I cried like I hadn't cried in years. Tears of release, tears for all the time lost, for all the dignity I had allowed them to take from me. At 11 that night, my phone rang. It was Jamal. I didn't answer. He called 4 more times. On the 5th attempt, I picked up. What do you want? My voice sounded colder than I expected. Mom, we're in a hotel. Do you know how much this costs? $120 a night. We can't afford this for long. I lived on $1,800 a month and paid all the house utilities, but he couldn't afford a hotel for a few days? Then find something more affordable, or stay with Tiffany's family. Silence. Then his voice hardened. This isn't over. I spoke to a lawyer. He says I can sue you for illegal eviction. I smiled. He couldn't see me, but I smiled. Jamal, I spoke to an attorney 3 months ago, and he says I have every right on my side. So, if you want to go to court, go ahead. I have documents. I have proof. I have everything I need. He hung up. He didn't call again, but he did send me text messages. Dozens of them, some pleading. Mom, I know things haven't been easy, but I don't deserve this. I'm your son. Others threatening. You're gonna end up alone. No one will want to help you when you're old and need something. I hope this was worth it. And the worst ones, the ones that revealed who he truly was. I should have left you in that retirement home when Tiffany suggested it a year ago. At least there you'd be with people your own age and not getting in the way. I saved every message, every screenshot, all archived because I knew this was just the beginning. The next day, they arrived promptly at 10. With them came Brenda, Tiffany's mother, a sharp-faced woman with a hawk's glare. I always disliked her, and she me. From day one, she made it clear that I wasn't good enough for her daughter, that Jamal should have married someone of higher standing. The accompanying officer was different from yesterday's, younger, less patient. Mrs. Dubois, they are going in to retrieve their belongings. Is everything packed? I nodded, 3 large suitcases in the master bedroom. I opened the door. They stormed in like a hurricane. Tiffany didn't even look at me. She went straight to the room. Brenda, however, stopped right in front of me. You should be ashamed, throwing out your own son. What kind of mother are you? I looked at her without blinking. A mother who got tired of being treated like trash in her own home. Did Tiffany tell you how she spoke to me? Did Jamal mention that I slept in the utility room? Brenda scoffed. Exaggerations. You were always dramatic. My daughter tells me everything. She says you're the one who causes problems, who refuses to help, that you're selfish. Selfish for wanting a hot meal? For wanting to sleep in my own bed? For wanting to be spoken to with respect? Believe what you want, Brenda. Your opinion no longer matters to me. Tiffany came out of the room shouting, "Clothes are missing, my coral dress isn't here, and Jamal's shoes aren't either." I had packed everything that was theirs, but I checked again. The coral dress was in the third suitcase. The shoes were there too. I shoved them to her. Tiffany grabbed them angrily. "You must have hidden them on purpose." Jamal walked through the house as if taking inventory, touching furniture, looking at paintings. "Mom, we need to talk about the furniture. We bought some of it." "Boss, all the furniture was mine. Some of it was 30 years old. Others I bought before he even came into my life. You can take anything you have a receipt for in your name." Tiffany laughed. "Receipts? Who keeps receipts from years ago?" "I do. I kept them all in a folder in my closet because I learned long ago that in this world you need proof of everything." "Then you can't take anything." Brenda intervened. "This is ridiculous. Jamal, call your lawyer. She can't do this." The officer was losing his patience. "Ladies and gentlemen, if there are no receipts, the furniture stays with the property owner. Finish packing your clothes and leave." Tiffany pulled out her phone. "I'm recording this. I want the whole world to see how you treat us." "Go ahead. Record. Because I have recordings too. 53 audio clips that prove exactly how you treated me. But I didn't say it. I just looked at her as she pointed the camera at me. Here she is, Miriam Dubois, the worst mother-in-law in the world, the worst mother throwing her son out onto the street like a stranger. Heartless, soulless." She spoke for her phone, for her social media followers, because Tiffany was one of those people. She lived for social media, for the likes, for the validation of strangers. She had nearly 10,000 followers. She posted pictures of her perfect life, her perfect marriage, her perfect family, but she never included me in those photos. I was the dirty secret, the inconvenient mother-in-law who lived in the back room. They finished packing. 3 suitcases, 2 boxes. It was little, much less than they expected to take. Tiffany tried to enter the kitchen. "I'm taking the blender. My mother gave it to me." Another lie. "I bought that blender 5 years ago on sale for $40. I remembered it perfectly." "You're not taking anything from the kitchen." Tiffany spun toward the officer. "See how she is? She's a tyrant." The officer sighed. "Ma'am, if you can't prove the item is yours, you can't take it now. Please leave the property." I watched them load the suitcases into the car. Brenda gave me one last look of pure hatred. "You're going to die alone, alone and regretful." I closed the door before she finished speaking. The officer lingered for a moment. "Ma'am, you're going to be okay. Sometimes these situations get messy." I nodded. "I'll be fine, officer. Thank you for your help." When he left, I walked through my house again. Every step felt different, like I was rediscovering spaces I had forgotten were mine. I entered the master bedroom, my bedroom. The bed was unmade, clothes were thrown on the floor, open perfume bottles on the dressing. They lived here as if they were the owners, as if I didn't exist. I started cleaning. I changed the sheets for new ones I had stored. I opened the windows wide, letting the fresh air sweep through, carrying away their scent, the heavy energy they had left impregnated in every corner. I wiped every surface, reorganized the closet, took my clothes from the utility room, and hung them where they belonged, in my closet, in my bedroom. That afternoon, I called Elias. "They're gone. They caused a scene, but they left." Elias sounded satisfied. "Perfect, Mrs. Dubois. Now comes the legal part. They will try something. Mentally prepare yourself for what's next." He was right. At 6 in the evening, I received an email. It was from a lawyer representing Jamal and Tiffany. The tone was aggressive, threatening. It demanded that I allow them to return to the house immediately. It threatened a lawsuit for unjustified and abusive eviction and family abandonment. It spoke of emotional damages, cruelty, and rights they supposedly had. I forwarded the email to Elias without even replying. He responded in 10 minutes. "Don't worry about anything. This is just legal theater. Cheap intimidation. They have absolutely no case. I will respond directly. You do nothing." I felt relieved. Having Elias on my side was like having a shield. That evening, I made dinner just for myself. Something I liked. Homemade tomato sauce pasta. Simple, delicious. I ate in the dining room, at the big table, not the small kitchen table where they had relegated me. I put on music, songs I hadn't listened to in 2 years because Tiffany thought they were noisy and old-fashioned. I poured wine, just 1 glass, to celebrate, to toast myself for finding the courage I thought I had lost. When night fell, I took a long bath in the tub, with bath salts and candles, things I had stored away and never used because Tiffany monopolized the bathroom, and I barely had 5 minutes to shower quickly in the mornings. I lay down in my bed. The sheets smelled clean, new, like freedom. And even though my mind was still alert, even though a part of me expected to hear pounding on the door, I managed to rest, truly rest, for the first time in years. The next day, everything changed. I opened my phone and had 147 notifications, messages from unknown numbers, comments on social media accounts I didn't even know I had. Tiffany had posted a video. I found it on her profile. She was crying, makeup artfully smeared. Jamal was beside her, wearing the perfect victim's face. My mother-in-law threw us out onto the street without warning, without any reason. We lived with her. We helped her with everything. We took care of her, and this is how she repays us? She threw us out like animals. My husband is her son, her only son, and this is how she treats him? The video already had 5,000 views. The comments were a river of indignation. What a horrible woman. Old people get cruel and selfish. Poor kids so young and already suffering like this. They should sue her. But there were also other comments. Fewer, but they were there. Why did she throw them out? There has to be a reason. Something doesn't add up in this story. Tiffany responded to each one, building her narrative. She's a complicated, manipulative woman. We could never please her. We did everything for her, everything, and she only caused problems. She treated us badly. She blamed us for everything. Living with her was hell. I read every comment, every lie, every poisoned word. And something inside me burned. It wasn't rage. It was pure, crystal clear determination. I called Elias immediately. "Did you see the video?" His voice sounded calm. "Yes, Mrs. Dubois. I saw it, and it's exactly what we expected. They are digging their own grave." I asked him what I should do. "Nothing for now. Let them talk. Let them lie. Every word they say is evidence in our favor. In the meantime, prepare your own evidence. Organize the recordings. I'll handle the rest." I spent the whole day organizing my arsenal. 53 audio recordings. I ordered them chronologically. The first one was 6 months ago. Tiffany's voice was crystal clear. "Miriam, clean the bathroom again. You left hair in the sink, and that's disgusting. I don't know why you even bother to get up if you can't do anything, right?" The second, a week later, Jamal talking to Tiffany, as if I weren't present. "My mother is unbearable lately. I think we should look for a retirement home for her. She's useless now." The third, the fourth, the fifth, each one worse than the last. Insults, humiliations, veiled threats. And number 27, that was the worst of all. It was my birthday. I turned 65. I got up early as always. I made breakfast. I hoped that maybe, just maybe, Jamal would remember, that he would wish me a happy birthday, that Tiffany would at least be courteous that day. But no, They ate breakfast in silence. They left for work without a word. I went back to my room and cried. At 2 in the afternoon, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. I answered cautiously. Mrs. Dubois? It was a woman's voice. Young, nervous. Yes. Who is this? There was a pause. My name is Keisha. I work with Tiffany. I saw her video and I need to talk to you. My heart sped up. About what? Keisha sighed. About Tiffany. About the lies she's telling. I know the truth and I think you deserve for someone to defend you. I asked her to come to my house. She arrived an hour later. A girl of about 25, thin with anxious eyes. She sat in the living room and began to speak. Tiffany always talks bad about you at work. She always says you're a burden, that she hates you, that she wishes you would die so they could have the house. The words hit me, but they didn't surprise me anymore. Keisha continued. 2 months ago, at an office lunch, Tiffany said word for word that she was waiting for you to have an accident or a serious illness. That way they could admit you to a facility and forget about you. We all went silent. It was horrible to hear her. I asked her why she was telling me this. Because I saw her video, and I know she's lying. Tiffany isn't anyone's victim. Tiffany is cruel, and I can't stand by and watch her destroy your reputation. I asked if she could give a written testimony. She agreed. That same afternoon, we drafted a document, signed, dated, with her contact information. Elias would be thrilled. That statement was golden. The next day, Tiffany's video had 20,000 views. Local media began to cover it. Heartless mother kicks son out onto the street. The headlines were sensational. Yellow journalism, false but effective. Tiffany had given interviews, crying on camera. Jamal remained silent, letting her speak. He was smarter than I thought. He knew she was the better actress. My phone wouldn't stop ringing. Unknown numbers, reporters, people insulting me. Wretched old woman, bad mother, hope you die alone. Each message was a knife, but I didn't respond. Elias had told me to wait, that it wasn't time yet. But then I received a different call. It was my cousin, Angela. Miriam, what is going on? I saw Tiffany's video. Is it true? I told her everything. Every detail, every humiliation, every insult, every day of the last 2 years. Angela cried. Cousin, why didn't you tell me? Why did you suffer alone? Because I was ashamed. Because admitting that my own son treated me that way was admitting that I had failed as a mother, that everything I did for him meant nothing. Angela was angry. I'm going to publish the truth. I'm going to defend you. I asked her to wait, to trust me, that I had a plan. That week was the hardest. Tiffany posted daily videos. Update, we are still homeless. My mother-in-law isn't answering our calls. She blocked us everywhere. We don't know what to do. Lies. They were staying at Brenda's house. I knew because Mr. Lewis told me his niece lived on the same street. She had seen them. But Tiffany built her narrative of a homeless victim, and people believed her. Her followers grew to 15,000, then 20,000. She became a minor celebrity of family drama. I received serious threats. We're going to find you, old lady. You deserve to have your house burned down. I called the police. They made a report and increased patrols on my street. Mr. Lewis offered to watch out for me. Mrs. Dubois, I've got your back. Don't worry. Good people still existed. In the midst of all the hatred, there was still kindness. Elias finally called me. It's time, Mrs. Dubois. They've had enough rope. Now we're going to use it to hang them. Metaphorically, of course. He explained the plan. I would create my own video, but not an emotional one, not crying. I would be calm, serene, with facts, with evidence, with documents. You're going to destroy their narrative with the truth, and the truth always wins. I spent 2 days preparing. I wrote a script. I rehearsed it. Elias reviewed it. Perfect, concise, devastating. I sat in front of my phone, pressed record, and started speaking. My name is Miriam Dubois. I am 65 years old, and this is my side of the story. My voice was firm, clear, with no tears, no drama, just cold, hard truth.
The house that I supposedly threw my son out of is my property, purchased by me in 1992. Here is the deed. I showed the document to the camera. Jamal never paid rent, never contributed to the utilities. I paid for everything with my $1,800 monthly Social Security benefit. I showed the receipts, months of receipts, all in my name. For 2 years, I lived in the utility room of my own house, while they occupied the master suite. I woke up at 5 a.m. to prepare their breakfast. I cleaned, I cooked, I washed their clothes, and I never received a thank you, only insults. I paused. I let the words sink in. Tiffany called me a dead weight, an old freeloader. She said I was useless, that I should go to a retirement home. And my son Jamal never defended me, never. On the contrary, he participated in the humiliations. I showed my phone to the camera. I have 53 audio recordings. They document every insult, every threat, every moment of emotional abuse. And now I'm going to play a few for you so you can hear the truth. I played the first recording. Tiffany's voice was unmistakable. Miriam, you're a burden. I don't know why Jamal doesn't send you to a facility already. At least there you'd be with old folks like you. The audio lasted 20 seconds. Enough. I played the second, Jamal's voice this time. Mom, you're exaggerating as always. No one treats you badly. The problem is you're too sensitive. You're too old for this drama. I played 5 more recordings, each one more devastating than the last. Then I showed the text messages, the screenshots where Jamal threatened me, where Tiffany insulted me, everything dated, everything real, everything verifiable.
This is the truth Tiffany doesn't want you to know. She is not the victim. I was for 2 years. And when I finally found the courage to reclaim my home, my dignity, my life, they decided to destroy my reputation. My voice remained steady. I didn't cry. I didn't beg. I just presented the facts. If you want to call me a bad mother for throwing out my son, go ahead. But know that this son treated me worse than a stranger. And I got tired. I got tired of being invisible in my own house. I got tired of being a ghost in my own life. I ended the video by showing one final document. This is the police report from the day I changed the locks. The officers confirmed the house is mine. I have every legal right to decide who lives here. Tiffany and Jamal can lie all they want, but the facts don't lie. I uploaded the video at 8 p.m. In 30 minutes, it had 1,000 views. In an hour, 10,000. In 2 hours, 50,000. The comments began to change. Oh God, this changes everything. Tiffany is a liar. Poor lady, what she had to endure. The recordings are enough proof. But there were still Tiffany's defenders. The recordings could be fake. This is manipulation from a bitter old woman. I don't believe her. It didn't matter because the tide was turning and I knew it. In 3 hours, the video had 100,000 views. The media that had covered Tiffany's version now wanted my side. My phone exploded with calls from reporters. Mrs. Dubois, can you give us an interview? I declined them all. Elias had advised me to let the video speak for itself. Don't give interviews yet. Let the information sink in. Let people process the truth. I didn't rest that night. I read every comment. I watched as the narrative crumbled. I watched as people began to question Tiffany, to demand answers. Tiffany responded quickly. She posted a video at 6 in the morning. She was furious. She was no longer crying. She was shouting. Those recordings are fake. Miriam invented them. This is defamation. I'm going to sue her for slander. But her mistake was yelling, losing her composure, showing her true face. The comments on her video were brutal. Now you showed your real face. You don't look like a victim anymore. You look guilty. The recordings are you. We can tell by your voice. Tiffany started deleting comments, blocking people, but it was too late. The damage was done. Her credibility was collapsing in real time. Jamal posted his own video. Calmer than Tiffany, more calculating. My mother is sick. I think she has mental health issues.
The recordings are taken out of context. Yes, we had arguments, all families argue, but we never treated her badly. She exaggerates everything, she always has. Mental health issue. That was their new strategy. To discredit me by age, by mental health, to paint me as senile, confused, manipulative. But I was prepared for that too. Elias had anticipated that move. They're going to attack your credibility. They're going to say you're senile. We have to get ahead of it. So, I posted a second video. This one was different, shorter, more direct. Jamal says I have mental health issues, that I'm confused. Here is the report from my latest medical evaluation done 2 months ago. Perfect mental health, intact cognitive abilities. I showed the medical document with the doctor's stamp, the date, everything. He also says the recordings are out of context. Here are the full, unedited recordings, 53 audio clips. You can listen to them all. I uploaded them to a public folder, accessible to anyone. Total transparency. People started listening to them one by one, and each audio was worse than the last. There was no context that could justify those words. There was no possible excuse. Tiffany and Jamal were completely exposed. Their followers began to abandon them. From 20,000, they dropped to 15,000, then to 10,000. People don't forgive lies. They don't forgive manipulation. But they didn't give up. Tiffany did a live stream. I'm going to answer all your questions. I'm going to clarify everything because Miriam is lying and destroying our lives. The stream began. 2,000 people connected. I was watching too. The questions came fast. Why does your voice in the recordings sound exactly like you? Tiffany stammered. It can be edited. There are programs for that. Liar. And people knew it. Is it true you lived in her house for free? Tiffany turned red. It wasn't free. We helped with things, with groceries, with expenses. Another lie. I had the receipts proving I paid for everything. Someone asked the obvious question, why don't you show proof that you helped financially? Tiffany started to get angry. We don't have to prove anything to anyone. You don't know what we live through. But people wanted proof, receipts, transfers, something. And Tiffany had nothing because they never paid anything. The stream became chaotic. The comments were cruel. Liar, abuser, manipulator. Tiffany started to cry, but they were no longer convincing tears. They were tears of rage, of frustration, of someone who knew they had lost. Jamal entered the stream, trying to calm the waters. People don't understand. My mother was always complicated. Since I was a child, I could never please her. I did everything for her and it was never enough. But someone asked a question that destroyed them. If your mother was so bad, why did you live with her for 2 years? Why didn't you leave sooner? Silence. Jamal had no answer, because the answer was obvious. They stayed because it was convenient, because they lived for free, because I was useful as a maid. Tiffany abruptly ended the stream, but the damage was done. That broadcast was their social death sentence. Clips of the stream went viral. Tiffany and Jamal exposed live. The abusive daughter-in-law's lie crumbles.
The media now wanted my side of the story more than ever. I accepted one interview, just one, with the most reputable local channel. The journalist, Marco, came to my house, professional, respectful. Mrs. Dubois, thank you for having me. I know this has been difficult. The interview lasted 40 minutes. I told him everything calmly, with details, with evidence. Marco reviewed every document, listened to the recordings, and at the end he told me something I will never forget. Mrs. Dubois, in 20 years of journalism, I've covered many stories, but this one is different. You're not seeking revenge, you're seeking justice, and that's admirable. The interview aired 2 days later during prime time. Millions of people saw it, and the impact was immediate. Social media exploded in my favor. Justice for Miriam. Tiffany and Jamal need to apologize. This lady deserves respect. But the most important thing wasn't the comments of support. It was what happened with Tiffany's job. She worked for a cosmetics company, a company that valued its public image, that sold products focused on family and values. Having an employee exposed as an emotional abuser was not good publicity. 3 days after my interview, Tiffany was fired. They didn't announce it publicly, but she did, in a rage-filled video. They fired me because of Miriam, because of her lies, because of her hate campaign against me. I lost my job, my reputation, everything. The comments were not kind. You lost your job because of your own actions. Consequences for your lies. No one wants to hire an abuser. Jamal also faced consequences. He worked at a small but decent technology company. His colleagues saw the videos, the recordings, and started looking at him differently. No one wanted to work with someone capable of treating his own mother that way. His boss called him into a meeting and suggested he take some personal time to resolve his issues. It was a disguised firing. Jamal blamed me, of course. He sent me a long message full of hatred. You destroyed my life. You destroyed my marriage, my career, everything because of your selfishness. I hope you're happy. I read the message and felt nothing. It no longer hurt. It no longer affected me because I finally understood something fundamental. I didn't destroy anything. They did it themselves with their actions, with their words, with their cruelty. I only exposed the truth, and the truth has consequences. Elias called me that week. Mrs. Dubois, I have good news. Their lawyer withdrew the lawsuit. They have no case, and they know it, and they don't want to expose themselves further in court. I felt immense relief. So it's over? Elias laughed. Not exactly. Now we are going to sue them. He explained the plan. We were going to sue for damages, emotional abuse, and defamation after they publish their lying videos. With the proof we have, we can easily win, and they will have to compensate you financially. I wasn't sure. Elias, I don't want their money. I just want peace. Elias was firm. Ma'am, this isn't just about the money. It's about setting a precedent. It's about making them understand that actions have real consequences. And besides, you deserve that compensation after everything you suffered. He was right. We proceeded with the lawsuit. The papers were served to Tiffany and Jamal a week later. Their reaction was predictable. Tiffany posted another video. Now Miriam is suing us. She wants to take every last dime. See, she's the abuser, not us. But no one believed her anymore. Her followers were fewer than 5,000, and most were trolls or people following the drama for entertainment. Public opinion was completely on my side. While we waited for the court date, something unexpected happened. Brenda, Tiffany's mother, appeared at my house unannounced. She knocked on the door on a Tuesday afternoon. When I opened it and saw her, my first instinct was to close it, but something in her expression stopped me. It wasn't her usual haughtiness. It was something different. Tiredness, perhaps? Or defeat. Miriam, I need to talk to you. I let her in. We sat in the living room, the same place where she had insulted me weeks ago. Brenda looked at her hands. I came to ask you to drop the lawsuit. She said it without looking at me. Why would I do that? She finally looked at me. Her eyes were red. Because Tiffany and Jamal are ruined. No job, no money, living with me in one room. If they lose in court, they'll be totally destitute. I felt a pang of something. Compassion, pity, but I quickly buried it. Brenda, for 2 years, they ruined me, and no one came to ask them to stop. No one. Brenda nodded slowly. I know, and I regret it. I should have intervened. I should have seen what was happening, but Tiffany is my daughter, and I defended her without question. Now I see the videos, the recordings, and I'm ashamed. My daughter became someone I don't recognize. Or maybe she was always like that and I didn't want to see it. There was a long, heavy silence. Did Tiffany send you to talk to me? Brenda shook her head. No, she doesn't know I'm here. She'll be furious if she finds out. But I needed to come. I needed to tell you I'm sorry, that you were right, and that I understand if you never forgive us. I didn't expect that. I didn't expect Brenda, of all people, to come and apologize. I won't withdraw the lawsuit. Brenda closed her eyes. I understand. She got up to leave, but before reaching the door, she turned around. One more thing. Tiffany is pregnant. The world stopped. What? Brenda nodded. 3 months. She hasn't made it public because she knows how it would look, but I thought you should know.
She left without saying another word. I stayed seated in the living room processing the information. Tiffany was pregnant. I was going to be a grandmother, or I would have been under normal circumstances, but these were not normal circumstances.
I called Elias. I told him, "Does that change anything legally?" Elias was clear. No. Pregnancy is no excuse for the abuse they committed. The case continues. He was right, but something churned inside me. An innocent baby without fault. What kind of life would he have with Tiffany and Jamal as parents? Would the cycle repeat? That night, I thought a lot about motherhood, about family, about what it truly means to love someone. I adopted Jamal when he was 5 years old. His biological mother, my distant cousin, died in an accident. His father was unknown. No one else wanted to take him, so I did. I gave him my last name, my house, my life. I raised him as my own. I gave him everything I could: education, love, stability. But somewhere along the way, something went wrong. Or maybe it was always wrong and I didn't see it. Maybe I should have been stricter, firmer. Maybe I spoiled him. Those questions tormented me. Was I a bad mother? Is it my fault Jamal turned into who he is? But then I remembered the recordings, the words, the contempt. And I knew that no, I didn't force him to treat me that way. I didn't force him to allow Tiffany to humiliate me. Those were his decisions, and he had to live with the consequences. The court date arrived 2 months later. Elias accompanied me. We entered the courtroom. Tiffany and Jamal were already there, with their lawyer, a young man who looked uncomfortable. Tiffany looked at me with pure hatred. Her belly was already showing. Jamal didn't even turn around. The hearing began. Elias presented our case. He played the recordings, showed the documents, presented the testimonies. Keisha, my witness, testified about Tiffany's conversations at work. Mr. Lewis testified about what he had seen. The evidence was overwhelming. Their lawyer tried to argue that the recordings violated their privacy, that I had obtained them illegally. Elias dismantled his argument in seconds. The recordings were made on Mrs. Dubois' property in her own home. It is completely legal. Then they tried the emotional angle. My client is pregnant. The stress of this trial is affecting her health. The judge looked at Tiffany. That is regrettable, but it does not absolve you of responsibility for your actions. The hearing lasted 3 hours. In the end, the judge ruled in favor of the plaintiff. Judgment for the plaintiff, Mrs. Miriam Dubois. The defendant shall pay $30,000 in compensation for emotional distress and defamation. Tiffany screamed, "We don't have that money. This is unfair." The judge struck his gavel. "You may establish a payment plan. Next case." We left the court. Tiffany was crying in the hallway. Jamal was comforting her, but his face was pale, defeated. They saw me, and Tiffany lunged toward me. Elias stepped between us. "Ma'am, maintain your distance or we will call security." Tiffany shrieked, "You ruined everything. Everything. I hope this makes you happy. I hope you can sleep knowing you destroyed your own family." I looked directly at her, without fear, without guilt. "I didn't destroy anything, Tiffany. You did that yourselves. I only defended myself." Jamal finally spoke. His voice was broken. "Mom, please withdraw this. We're family. We can fix it." Family. That word again. "Jamal, you stopped being my family the day you sent me to sleep in the utility room, the day you allowed Tiffany to humiliate me, the day you told me I was useless." His eyes filled with tears, but they no longer moved me. "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I made mistakes, but we can start over." I shook my head. "No, we can't. Because this wasn't a mistake. It was 2 years of conscious decisions, of deliberate cruelty, and now you have to live with the consequences." We left. I left them there, in that hallway, facing the reality they themselves created. The following weeks were strange. The house was silent, but it was a peaceful silence. There was no longer tension.
there was no longer fear. I started living again. I went for morning walks, I visited Angela, I bought flowers to decorate the living room. Simple things I had forgotten how to do. One day, while organizing the closet, I found an old box. Photos of Jamal as a child, his first day of school, his graduation, Christmases, birthdays, happy moments that now seemed like they belonged to another life, another person. I cried looking at those photos, not for him, but for myself, for the mother I was, for the years I gave, for the love I offered that was never enough. But I also felt something else, relief, because I was finally free. Free of expectations, free of guilt, free of continuing to give to someone who only knew how to take. I closed the box. I put it in the back of the closet. I didn't throw it away, but I didn't need to see it either. It was part of my past, and I was building a different future. Elias called me a month after the trial. Mrs. Dubois, they started paying $500 a month. It will take them 5 years to complete the amount, but at least they are complying. $500. It was ironic. That amount was less than what I paid monthly when they lived with me, but it wasn't about the money. It never was. It was about the principle, about justice, about proving to them that they couldn't destroy someone without consequences. I decided to do something with that money, something meaningful. I opened a special savings account. Every payment I received from them went straight into it, and when the amount was complete, I would donate it to a shelter for older women who were victims of family abuse. Because I discovered I wasn't alone. There were thousands of women like me, invisible, mistreated in their own homes, silenced by shame. If my story could help even one person, it was worth it. The months passed. My life found a new rhythm. I met other women in the park during my morning walks. We formed a group. We met on Wednesdays. We had coffee, laughed.
They were women my age, some widows, some divorced, all with stories, all survivors. One of them, a woman named Angela, like my cousin, became a close friend. She told me her story. Her son had also mistreated her. He left her in a retirement home and never visited again. But I got out of there, she told me proudly. I sold the jewelry I had left, I rented a small apartment, and now I live alone, peacefully, happily. Stories like that reminded me that I did the right thing, that peace is worth more than any romantic idea of family. 6 months after the trial, I received an unexpected message. It was from Jamal. Brief, concise. Mom, Tiffany gave birth. It's a boy. His name is Maris. I thought you should know. A boy? My grandson whom I would never meet? I felt a small but real pang. What would the baby be like? Would he have Jamal's eyes, his smile? But then I thought of Tiffany, of how she spoke about me, of how she treated me, and I knew that boy would grow up hearing lies about me, that Tiffany would fill him with poison, that he would never have the chance to know my side. It hurt, but it was the reality. I didn't reply to the message. There was nothing to say. 2 weeks later, Jamal sent a photo. The baby was beautiful, small, perfect, innocent. I looked at that photo for a long time, and finally, I wrote a reply. Congratulations. I hope you are good parents, better than you were to me. It was the only thing I could say. Jamal didn't respond. The months passed. The first year, then the second. Life continued. I sold the house. Too many bitter memories, too many shadows in every corner. I bought a smaller apartment, modern, bright, in a building with security, with friendly neighbors, overlooking a park. It was perfect. Exactly what I needed. With the money left over from the sale, I took a trip. Something I always wanted to do but never could. I went to Spain, my grandparents' country. I visited small towns. I ate delicious food. I walked through ancient streets. I met people. I talked. I laughed.
I lived. And for the first time in decades, I felt complete. Not as a mother, not as a grandmother, just as Miriam, as a woman, as a human being with self-worth. When I returned, I resumed my routine. My walks, my friends, my support group. I started giving talks at community centers to groups of older adults. I told my story without drama, just facts. And I always ended with the same message. Don't let anyone take your dignity, no matter who they are. Family, friends, anyone. Your peace of mind is worth more than any toxic relationship. The responses were always the same. Women crying, thanking me, telling me their own stories. My daughter treats me like that. My son stole my savings. My daughter-in-law ignores me. Devastating stories, but also stories of hope, of women who decided to change, who said enough, who reclaimed their lives. One afternoon, after one of those talks, a young woman approached me. She must have been about 30, nervous. "Mrs. Dubois, can I talk to you?" I nodded. We sat on a bench. "I'm like Tiffany," she began. My heart sped up. "I treat my mother-in-law badly. I say horrible things to her, and after hearing your story, I realize what I'm doing." Tears streamed down her face. "I don't want to be that person. I don't want my mother-in-law to have to do what you did in 20 years. I listened to her. I gave her advice. I suggested therapy, family mediation, honest communication. She left feeling calmer, with hope, and I felt something strange. Satisfaction because my pain, my story, was helping to prevent others from suffering the same. It was creating real change. 3 years after the trial, the payments ended. $30,000, complete. I donated it, as promised. The shelter used the money to expand its facilities to help more women. They invited me to the inauguration. The inauguration was beautiful. Women of all ages, different stories, but similar pain. The shelter director introduced me to everyone. "This is Miriam. Thanks to her generosity, we were able to expand and help 50 more women every year." The applause overwhelmed me. I never sought recognition. I just wanted something good to come out of all that suffering. After the event, an older woman approached me. She must have been 70, perhaps, her face marked by time and pain. "Thank you," she simply said. "My son used to hit me. He took my Social Security checks, but they helped me here. They gave me shelter, legal support, and now I have my own apartment, my own life." I hugged her and cried with her because I understood exactly what it meant to reclaim your life after it had been taken from you. That day confirmed something I already knew. I had made the right decision. Every step, every action, everything had been worth it. 4 years after changing those locks, my life was completely different, unrecognizable. I had peace. I had a purpose. I had true friends. I had self-respect. One April afternoon, while having coffee on my balcony, the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting visitors. When I opened it, I almost fell over. It was Jamal. He had aged. His face had lines I didn't remember. His hair was streaked with gray. He looked tired, defeated. "Mom," he said softly, "can I come in?" All the alarms in my head went off, but something in his gaze was different. There was no arrogance, no calculation, only exhaustion. I let him in. We sat in the living room. The silence was heavy. "How did you know my address?" I had been careful not to share it. "Angela gave it to me. I begged her. I told her I needed to see you." "My cousin. We would have a conversation later." "What do you want, Jamal?" He took a deep breath. "I came to apologize. Truly. No excuses, no justifications. What I did to you was unforgivable." I waited.
I had heard apologies from him before. Always empty, always manipulative. Tiffany and I separated 6 months ago. That surprised me. It turns out she was as cruel to me as she was to you. Worse, even. And when I couldn't give her the life she wanted anymore, she left me. She took Maris. His voice broke when he mentioned his son. She won't let me see him. She says I'm a bad father, that I don't deserve to be in his life. The irony was almost comical. Almost. And she's right, he continued, because she learned from me. She learned that it's okay to discard people when they're no longer useful to you, just like I did to you. Tears streamed down his face. Real ones, not feigned. I lost my job, my wife, my son, my house, everything. And the worst part is I deserved it. All of it. I remained silent. Part of me wanted to comfort him, the maternal instinct that never completely dies. But another part, the part that had learned to protect itself, remained firm. Why are you telling me this now? Jamal looked at me directly. Because I spent 4 years blaming you, telling myself everything was your fault, that you were cruel, unfair. But when Tiffany did exactly what I did to you, I finally understood. He wiped his tears. I understood the pain, the humiliation, the feeling of being invisible in your own life. And I realized I was a monster to you. There was a long, heavy silence. I don't expect you to forgive me. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I just needed you to know that I understand now, that I regret it, and that if I could go back in time, I would do everything differently. His words sounded sincere, but words are easy. Actions are what count. Jamal, I appreciate that you came, that you said this, but it doesn't change anything. His face fell. I know, and I accept that. I just wanted you to know. He stood up to leave, but at the door he stopped. One more thing. Maris asks about you sometimes. Tiffany tells him you're dead, but he found photos and asks who you are. My heart tightened. Someday, when he's older, I want to tell him the truth. I want him to know he had a grandmother who would have loved him, and that he lost her because of his parents. I didn't know what to say. Jamal left. I closed the door and stayed there processing everything. Was his repentance real? Or was it another manipulation? After everything I'd lived through, I no longer trusted my instincts with him. I called Elias. I told him about the visit. What do you think, Elias? Elias was direct. I think he suffered and learned, but that doesn't mean you should let him back into your life again. Regret doesn't erase the damage. He was right. Forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. You can forgive and still maintain distance. You can let go of the hatred without opening the door. That night, I thought a lot about Maris, my grandson, a 4-year-old boy growing up without knowing me, believing I was dead. It was unfair to him, but there was nothing I could do. Not without getting involved in the drama again, and I had worked too hard for my peace to risk it. I made a decision. I wrote a letter. Not for Jamal, but for Maris. A letter he could read when he was older, when he could understand. I told him my side of the story without hatred, without blame, just facts. I told him how much I would have loved him, how much I wished to know him. But I also explained why I couldn't. I let him know that it wasn't his fault, that adult problems are not the responsibility of children. I sealed the letter. I put it in a folder with instructions for Angela. If anything happened to me, she was to give it to Maris when he turned 18. It was the only thing I could do. My gift to a grandson I might never know. The months passed. Jamal didn't contact me again. I respected that. But one day I received a package in the mail. Inside were photos of Maris on his first day of school, on his birthday, playing in the park, and a note from Jamal. I thought you would want to see him grow up, even from afar. I'll send photos every 6 months. You don't have to reply. I just want you to know that you exist for him,
even if you can't be present. I put the photos in a new album, and every 6 months, more arrived. Maris growing, smiling, living. It was bittersweet to see what I had lost, but also beautiful to know that he existed, that he carried my blood, even if not my last name. 5 years after that first day I changed the locks, my life had found balance, deep peace. It wasn't the life I imagined. I didn't have the family I dreamed of, but I had something better. I had dignity, freedom, self-respect. My talks at community centers grew. They asked me to write a book. Your story needs to be told, they said. At first I resisted. Who would want to read about an old woman throwing out her son? But then I understood. It wasn't about throwing anyone out. It was about reclaiming yourself, about finding courage when you thought you had none left, about choosing your peace over the approval of others. I wrote the book. It took a year. Elias helped with the legal aspects. Angela helped with the editing. It was published in a small format. I didn't expect much, but something strange happened. It went viral. Not on the level of an international bestseller, but within the community of older adults, it was a phenomenon. Women wrote to me, men too. Thank you for telling this. You gave me the courage to leave my situation. You saved my life. Messages like that. Hundreds, thousands. And I understood that my pain had served a greater purpose than myself. It had created a small but powerful movement of older adults who refused to be invisible, who reclaimed their dignity, who said, enough.
I did interviews, I appeared on programs, always with the same message. Family is no excuse for abuse. Love doesn't mean tolerating everything, and it's never too late to start over. Today, I am 70 years old. 5 years have passed since I changed those locks. 5 years since I reclaimed my life. My apartment is my sanctuary, small but cozy, full of plants, light, and peace. My mornings are mine. I have breakfast calmly, I read, I listen to music, I go for walks when I want, I see my friends when I want. I live on my own terms, no longer according to the demands of others. The book had a second edition, then a third. The royalties gave me the financial stability I never had. I was able to travel more. I saw Italy, France, Portugal. Places that only existed in magazines now existed in my memories, in my photos, in my lived experience. I expanded my work with the shelter. I am now on the board of directors. We help hundreds of women every year. We give them legal tools, emotional support, practical resources, and above all, we give them hope. The hope that they are not alone, that they can leave, that there is life after abuse. Some of those women became close friends. We formed a community. We support each other. We celebrate birthdays together, holidays. We created our own family, a chosen one, based on mutual respect, genuine affection, and reciprocity. Last month, I received an unexpected message. It was from Tiffany after 5 years of total silence. Miriam, I know I have no right to ask you for anything, but I need to talk to you. It's about Maris. My first instinct was to ignore it, to block her, but the mention of Maris stopped me. I agreed to a phone call. Only that. Tiffany sounded different. Her voice had lost that cruel edge. She sounded tired, even humble. Thank you for answering. I know I don't deserve it. I waited in silence. Maris is 8 years old now. He's a bright, sensitive boy, and he asks questions. Questions about family, about grandparents, about roots. Tiffany paused. I lied to him for years. I told him he had no grandmothers, that both had died, but he found the book, your book, and saw your picture. My breath hitched. He asked if you were his grandmother, and I couldn't keep lying. I told him the truth, part of it at least. Tiffany sobbed softly. He asked why he didn't know you, why you weren't in his life, and I didn't know what to tell him without admitting it was my fault.
I asked her what exactly she wanted. I don't know if it's fair to ask this, but Maris wants to meet you. He read parts of the book, the age-appropriate parts, and he says he wants to meet the brave grandma. Brave grandma. Those words broke my heart. Tiffany, what you did to me, what Jamal allowed, was devastating. I don't know if I can open that door. Tiffany sniffled. I completely understand, and if you say no, I'll respect it. But Miriam, I've changed. Therapy helped me see how monstrous I was. I don't expect your forgiveness. I'm just asking you to consider meeting Maris. He is innocent in all of this. She was right. Maris was innocent. I told her I would think about it. We hung up. For days, I did nothing but think, should I risk my peace to meet my grandson? What if it was a trap? What if Tiffany hadn't really changed? I talked to Elias, to Angela, to my friends at the shelter. They all told me the same thing. Do what your heart tells you, but protect yourself first. I decided on something. I would meet Maris, but on my terms, on neutral territory with clear boundaries. I called Tiffany. I agree to meet Maris one time at the city park this Saturday at 3 p.m. You will be present, but at a distance, and if I feel uncomfortable at any point, I will leave without explanation. Tiffany accepted everything. Saturday arrived. My nerves were shot. I got to the park 15 minutes early. I sat on a bench near the fountain. At 3 exactly, I saw them. Tiffany walked with a boy by the hand. Maris. Dark hair, curious eyes. When he saw me, he stopped. Tiffany told him something. He nodded and walked toward me alone. My heart was beating so hard, I thought it might be heard. You're Miriam? His voice was small but firm. Yes, I am. I'm Maris. He nodded. He sat beside me. There was a silence. Then he spoke. You read my book. Well, Mom read me parts. You were very brave. I didn't know what to say. Thank you, Maris. He looked at me with those big eyes. Is it true that I'm your grandmother? I nodded. Yes, I am your grandmother. A huge smile lit up his face. That's good. I always wanted to have a grandma. We spent an hour together. We talked about his school, his friends, his interests. He liked to draw dinosaurs, adventure books. He was bright, sweet, everything Jamal had been as a child before something went wrong. When it was time to leave, Maris hugged me tight. Can I see you again? I looked at Tiffany. She nodded from a distance. Yes, Maris, we can see each other again. His smile said it all. He left with Tiffany, but before going, he turned around. Grandma Miriam, I like you. Grandma Miriam. I cried on that bench for 20 minutes. Tears of joy, of pain, of healing. Now I see Maris once a month, always in neutral places, parks, museums, coffee shops. Tiffany keeps her distance, respects the boundaries, and slowly, very slowly, I am getting to know my grandson. I have no relationship with Tiffany. I probably never will. The damage was too deep. Jamal is not part of my life either. According to Tiffany, he's in therapy, working on himself. I hope it's true for him, for Maris. But I don't need his repentance to move on. I already moved on years ago.
My life now is full, rich, meaningful. Not in the way I imagined, but perhaps better, because I built it myself, according to my values, my needs, my dreams. I learned lessons I will never forget. I learned that kindness without limits is self-destruction. That loving someone doesn't mean tolerating everything. That biological family does not guarantee respect or genuine love. And that it is never, ever too late to choose yourself. There are still difficult days where I wonder what would have happened if I had acted differently. If I had been firmer from the beginning.
if I had set boundaries sooner. But then I remember you can't change the past. You can only learn from it and use those lessons to build a better future. My story went public. Thousands know it. Some admire me, others criticize me. A mother should never throw out her son. I read them, I process them, and I let them go because they didn't live my life. They didn't sleep in that utility room. They didn't listen to those daily insults. They didn't feel that constant humiliation. Only I lived that, and only I had the right to decide when enough was enough. The shelter I helped expand now bears my name, the Miriam Dubois Support Center. It honors me, but it also commits me to continue being a voice for those who have none, to keep fighting for those who are still trapped. Last week, I gave another talk. A woman of 60 approached me afterward. My daughter treats me exactly the way Tiffany treated you, but I'm afraid of being alone. I took her hands. The loneliness you fear is less painful than the company that is destroying you. And besides, when you choose yourself, you are never truly alone. She cried in my arms and promised she would take action. Stories like that remind me why it was worth it. Because every tear, every moment of pain, every day of uncertainty was absolutely worth it. Today, I look out the window of my apartment. The sun is warm, my plants are blooming, my coffee is perfect, and I am at peace. A deep peace earned with blood, sweat, and tears. But it's mine, completely mine. I don't regret adopting Jamal. I gave him a life he wouldn't have had. I gave him genuine love, opportunities, education. That doesn't change because he chose to be cruel later. My goodness was real. My love was real. The fact that he didn't value it doesn't diminish its validity. I only regret not understanding sooner that kindness should never be practiced at the expense of self-destruction, that loving others begins with loving yourself, that setting boundaries is not selfishness, it is survival. This is my story, a story of loss, but also of rebirth, of pain, but also of healing, of being destroyed, but also of rebuilding stronger. And if there is anyone reading this, anyone suffering in silence in their own home, I want you to know something. You are not alone. Your pain is valid, and you have the right to choose your peace over any familial obligation. Because in the end, the only thing that truly belongs to us is our dignity. And no one, absolutely no one, has the right to take that away. I reclaimed mine, and you can reclaim yours too. Did you like my story? And which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you liked the story, you can support me by sending a super thanks so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Thank you so much for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments on the story. On the screen, you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story. With love and respect.